Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You can even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Rhys, and of course I am your host truly of Creative Space Podcast. Welcome back to another episode, and today's guest on the show is none other than Daniel H. Wilson. Now, if you are not familiar with his work, I highly suggest you go and read up his books, read up on Robopocalypse, read up on how to survive a robot uprising. The man is a PhD in robotics, guys. He's been there and done that. He's a screenwriter. He talks about his experience with working with Steven Spielberg, Michael Bay, and so much more. So without further ado, let's just get on with the podcast. It's me and Daniel H. Wilson on Creative Space Podcast, guys. This computer. Cheers. So, where are you? Now, are you still in Oklahoma or are you in California?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah. Oregon?
Yeah.
That's one of the places I love to go to.
Oregon. It is nice. I've been loving it here. I've lived here for it's getting on since 2006 or something. Getting on a long time.
Why Oregon then? Was it something that attracted you to Oregon? Was it something like...
if you watch enough X-Files, you get to you see all those woods. No, an algorithm matched me here. My wife, who I was living with in Seattle, and I had a house in Pittsburgh from going to graduate school there. She matched with an internship for a psychology degree, and so it was an algorithm that chose Portland for us.
Oh yeah,
it chose really well. We're really happy with it.
Oh, that's brilliant. No, I think one of the reasons why I want to go to Oregon, and I think they filmed in there, was the Goonies.
Astoria.
I'd love to just go there. My cousin Andrew, he's been to all corners of America, and he said, Rhys, I've been to the Goonies house, and I was like, get out, just go away, leave me alone.
The people that live there apparently hate it when people come and visit.
I think because it's we've got in Wales we got a few specific locations where we've got I don't know if you're familiar with the TV show Gavin and Stacey. I don't know if it was a British
one that I've watched.
Yeah, it's obviously it was a sitcom in the UK, and they filmed it mostly in my hometown of Barry,
Mm.
and the houses that they used to film the locations, obviously they got so popular that loads of people from the corners of the world started coming in going, oh, we like to come and visit your house, which at the time the former owner didn't mind.
Mm.
She was very happy to let people in, and obviously she said, you just can't go upstairs though, and they were like, yeah, that's fine. But then since she moved and new people came in, the new people were a bit, they knew what they were getting themselves into, but at the same
Yeah.
time they were a bit, we don't want so many visitors come in, which is fair enough. But I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
but at the same time, I
Yeah.
go, you moved into the Gavin and Stacey house.
What did you expect? Yeah.
So now I read Robopocalypse years ago, many years ago, and forgive me if I just go if I say something and it goes, that's not right, Rhys, because I haven't not read it in a while. But it was the fact that me and my grandfather were talking about science fiction, and we were talking about loads of things coming up, especially with Doctor Who, with the 60th
Mhm.
anniversary specials come in, which I cannot wait.
Yeah, we've only just gotten into Doctor Who at my house.
Have
Like,
you?
I mean, I'm so overdue, right?
Oh,
But
dude,
yeah,
you
we
got
binged.
871 episodes to catch up,
No,
mate.
we binged it. I mean, yeah, I got, yeah, geez. Now my 5-year-old, she really likes to pretend to be those creepy angels where they come
Oh,
at you when you're not looking. And so she
yeah.
sneaks around the house and does this. It's extremely terrifying.
So what have you caught up to then? Have you caught up to the just the
Just
modern?
yeah, to the
Yeah,
just the modern stuff. The
yeah, yeah.
just the last couple seasons.
No, that's fair enough. Because I started watching it when it first came back, and of course, obviously, because I'm from Wales, and most of
Mm.
the Doctor Who was filmed in Wales. Um, I remember I never heard of Doctor Who until I went to another cousin of mine's house, and we were playing out in the garden, and then to my cousin's mum just went, "Oh, it's on. Doctor Who's on," and they went in and left me. It was like, "What's that about?" So I walked in. I walked in. I was like, "Oh, what's this Doctor Who?" And my cousin was saying, "Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it." And it got to the gas mask zombies, and
Oh my
but
God, yeah.
yeah,
So
but
good.
it wasn't the first part. It was the second part where everything was coming to fruition. So I started
Mhm.
watching it, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is amazing!" And then I followed it up, but I was a bit of like a late boomer when it came
Mhm.
out, but then I grew up watching David Tennant. I grew up watching Matt
Yeah.
Smith and beyond, and I'll never forget when I got into the classics. I remember there was we
Mhm.
used to have a Woolworths, and my mum would take me and said, right, we'll treat you to some DVDs and films. And I'm mad into my wrestling as well, mad into my WWE. But
Mhm.
I walked in and I was like, right, well, what can I get? And all I saw on the shelves were the classic Doctor Who DVDs, and I thought, oh, which one to get? Which one to get? And then I just picked this Colin Baker, The Sixth Doctor's Revelation of the Daleks. And
Mm.
ever since then, it was like fandom completely gone into full meltdown.
Oh
He's
boy. That's it.
and
That's
yeah.
all it takes.
Oh
I
yeah.
no my scratch for that got itched with Red Dwarf. I was
Mm.
super into Red Dwarf, and it was way back in the day when Blockbusters still existed.
Oh
And
yeah.
they had this like this promotion where they said you'll love it or it's for free, and I kept bringing back the Red Dwarf and being like, it was good, it was great, but I don't love it. I'm not in love with it. And then they would give me the next one for free, and I did that for the whole series because I couldn't yeah, afford to be renting that many videos. But yeah, it's cold outside. There's no kind of atmosphere. I still love this show.
Yeah. Is there any other science fiction? Oh, because obviously you write a lot of science fiction
Sure.
novels and stories. But is there any other science fiction shows that really stick in your mind and that you really love?
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the more modern, like new stuff where they're kind of taking a different approach to looking at robotics. Like if you, for instance, Doctor Who, I mean, that's pretty much like that's been around so long that they've got a really sort of like I would say antiquated idea of like what robots are and what they look
Mm.
like and how they move and stuff like that. And so, I mean, I like stuff like Her or Ex Machina. I really liked Robot and Frank. These are like movies. that are pretty recent that have unique takes on robots and all that stuff. So I like that stuff. And then of course I just like the usual everything that everybody else likes. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with just watching a bunch of Mandalorians and he fights a monster and he shoots a robot and move on to the next episode. But no, I mean, I love all that stuff. I spend a lot of time writing it though. So I'm often thinking about it from my own perspective and not really, and also just thinking about how I wish they had done that better or different. And I also spend time, I'm a screenwriter, so I spend time adapting other people's science fiction into scripts. And so a lot of times I'm thinking about when I read like, oh, and how would you turn that into a movie? And, what would you focus on and what would you throw away? So,
I it was interesting that you say that because, of course, where science fiction is heading now, you got
mhm.
the height of which I'll ask in a minute about AI, but you got the power of technology on social media and the way technology is going with mobile devices and and other things as well. Do you think science fiction is going in the same direction of how much the impact and the height it's getting compared to like how it did back in the 50s and 60s, where because of the height of the Cold War, the science
Yeah,
fiction genre just took off because a lot of things of nuclear and the
yeah.
giant monsters and everything. Do you think it's the same way now?
Uh, I don't know. I feel like if you so I wrote a book called Where's My Jetpack, where I kind of went through all the like where all those technologies of the past that were of the future, where they're at and what happened to them all. So yeah, I think that vibe from like the 50s and 60s was just like way more optimistic ultimately, right? I mean, people had been looking around and they were like, I don't want food that was grown in the dirt. Technology is the answer, right? And it was like technology was the answer for everything. They wanted like nuclear pens, atomic pens and things like that. And like, I don't think people are that optimistic about technology anymore, right?
Mhm.
It's pretty clear that it's not always going to be, put to use to like save humankind or help anybody except for
Yeah,
like a few tech billionaires. So it's like, it's not as optimistic now. One thing I find really interesting though is how everything comes back around. Like, so I got a PhD in robotics. I spent a lot of time building robots at Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh. And, while I was there, like I used to think that a lot of the Asimov stuff was silly, right? Like the three laws of robotics, silly. I mean, you don't talk to a robot, you program a robot, right? You tell it what to do. And then, this all these general artificial neural networks come up, the chat GPT stuff starts showing up, and you realize, oh yeah, like it does make sense to like have a robot psychologist now. I mean, people do talk to robots. The idea of something being robotic, as in definition, it's predictable, it's deterministic, it's all that stuff's out the window now. If you
yeah,
ask, like, I got kids, if you ask kids to describe robots, they're not going to describe like, beep boop. They're going to describe like unpredictable, hallucinating, bullshitting machines that come up with stuff that you'd never predict. And it's just a completely different idea of what robots are and what they mean. And I love that Asimov kind of had it all figured out all the way back then
yeah.
with the idea of robot psychologists and things.
It was funny because me and my grandfather. I mean, we both love science fiction. We both love talking about science and in all shapes and forms. And I said to him about AI, and I said, why is it that the human race, whether we, tech billionaires and other billionaires, you talk about Bill Gates and Elon Musk and everyone, it's like, why are they producing all these technological things where they're just going to make the human race obsolete? What is it with that? Why does the human race want to make themselves obsolete? And my grandfather turned around and went, because we're fucking stupid.
Yeah, I mean, you do wonder about that if we do have some kind of built-in self-destruction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we build tools, and if we show up and we find tools that are already there, then we build better versions of those tools. And so, it seems like that's kind of the way that our civilization right now is set up. I think there have been other civilizations in the past that were more in equilibrium, and maybe the technologies they developed were more sustainable and would
Mm.
keep their civilizations alive. and thriving longer than maybe this model that we're using now.
Yeah.
um, but uh, but every year we build new technologies, we increase our capabilities for destruction and for doing good things, and then typically we go like 60-40 toward destruction. and uh, and that's the slow collapse that we've been living through. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
But I don't
Just,
know. I think a walk in the woods is probably the most powerful thing that you can do.
yeah. Just go for a walk. It's fine. Just go for a walk.
Go for a walk in the woods, just look around. I mean, because all of this technology stuff, it wants you to think that it's your world, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you make of AI then? What is your perspective of it?
Yeah. I write AI characters. I've spent a lot of time thinking about AI in terms of non-human intelligence and whether it's like first contact, to talk to an AI, and the current models of generating, intelligence, artificial intelligence, are really kind of like, you feed it the internet and then it spits out different probabilistically likely combinations of stuff that's happened on the internet. And it's like, really? Like that's what we want? That's where we get our best examples of human behavior and stuff, is all the things we've said on the internet. And so it's kind of disappointing, right? Because
Yeah.
I thought that they were going to figure out some math, that was going to emulate consciousness, that we were going to have a true non-human intelligence. And instead, we've just got word salad that's, spitting stuff back to us, that just sounds really convincing. And I mean, I think it really is. It's actually, it's bullshitting. I mean, it's like that's the definition of just bullshitting around, right? And so instead of, we're getting this weird echo of ourselves instead of a truly unique, new entity out there. So I'm disappointed. And also, I feel like it's being so far put to use really in a full capitalism, right? That's the
Mm,
way that it came. It's not like NASA, right? You look at, sometimes you have these like bigger than a nation, bigger than, for all humankind type endeavors, that humans are capable of doing. We built the International Space Station, right? We've had some endeavors like that, been to the moon, stuff like that, where it really came from, not from just somebody's pocketbook sort of
mm.
situation. And AI didn't come like that. So AI showed up fully, open AI, broke it open, jumped ahead. All the other companies that had been working on this that didn't quite have it ready all had to just pull the trigger and go, or else lose out on whatever market share. So we're at the whims of, capitalism right here in terms of how this stuff's being unrolled. And that's pretty scary. And ultimately, I mean, I suspect that it's going to result in some pretty sort of crummy outcomes, in terms of how the AI is employed. But
Yeah.
we'll see. A
Yeah.
little
James
bit of a
Cameron
negative
was
Nelly.
right.
Yeah, well, I mean, even that, I don't know. I don't think anything so simple as just all humans, just kill all humans, is going to be in the cards. I think it's just much more scary than that. I mean, I just imagine, uh, again, like, I've just noticed that, human beings are very happy to substitute a virtual world over top of their actual world, right? And so if somehow our brains can't tell the difference between like whether somebody talks trash to us in the street or whether they do it online. And so that's kind of what's scary, is we've got sort of this infinite number of new personalities that are generated online that can just talk to you and tell you anything you want. They can agree to anything that you suggest and find evidence that you're right.
Mm,
And they're just going to be leading probably millions of people down millions of rabbit holes that, yeah, are going to be pretty scary.
mm. Moving on to where you said I've done a bit of research and this popped into my head. Obviously, you're part of the Cherokee nation,
Mhm.
so Native American, and I I just wanted to know, how important is it to you as a Cherokee that you put in Native American characters in your books, and how do you feel when other filmmakers or other writers do that in different
Mhm.
ways? How do you approach that?
Sure. I mean, look, it's like I grew up in Oklahoma in the Cherokee Nation, on the Cherokee. It's a technically a reservation now, and in Tulsa, Oklahoma. You know, these are just sovereign nations that overlap with you know, state and counties and everything, you know, that you have in any state. So these aren't like walled off reservations or anything like that. There's just a lot of native people in Oklahoma. And that's where I grew up, and that's what I grew up around. And so that shows up in my work a lot, right? And sometimes you'll never believe this, but they have characters in my books and novels that are just happen to be native for no reason.
Mm. 'Cause
It's
you
just a
wanted it.
native person. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I mean, you don't have to. I mean, there's no look. Like I write from what I know. I write, you know, the people that I know, the way they talk, you know, my memories, my experiences. So like, so there's going to be native stuff in my work. Over the years, I've started to realize that, you know, that's not represented in as, you know, in a lot of stuff. And so uh, it's become a bigger deal to like to make sure that I do represent that and that I do have that in my work, because it's not, you know, it is not coming from a lot of other people. And also, like what I found is that the way I write, period, is I love genre, right? I love science fiction. I've read every damn science fiction thing I can get my hands on for the last 20 years, right? And what you find is that certain themes and everything sort of appear, and you develop these sort of assumptions about what you're about to read. Oh, it's a robot uprising. Oh, it's a zombie thing or whatever. And subverting those sort of expectations is what you want to do as a writer. And so I started out, I got a degree in robotics. I knew a lot about robots. So when I wrote Robopocalypse, I funneled all that information, all that technical detail into the book so that I could subvert people's expectations about what they were going to get, which is Terminator. They thought they were going to get Terminator. It's called Robopocalypse. I mean, hell, it's a solid chance you're going to get a Terminator scenario. It turns out to be much more complex and, in my point of view, interesting, right? I mean, imagine trying to write a villain who just wants to kill all humans. Why? No reason. Programmed. That's the most boring motivation I could
Mm.
possibly think of. You could never get away with that, right? So that's how that early stuff happened. Well, I mean, guess what? There's a lot of assumptions about native characters, what it means. And I write science fiction and I write native characters. And guess what, man? Those two things, people don't think of those two things being combined, right? When they think of native stuff, they think of history, like the past. They think of like, yeah, you know, a lot of stereotypes.
Mm.
And so for me, it's the same deal that's happening. I know I'm a domain expert in this area. And so I use that knowledge to subvert expectations when people go in, you know, thinking that they're going to get one thing, and you just give them, you know, the truth. And so over the years, you know, I write screenplays. I've done a lot of in film and in the publishing world. I've found that, yeah, that's really valuable to have that perspective. And also it's valuable to the tribes to give their citizens that agency to tell their own stories. So, you
Mm.
know, like Scorsese and those guys out there in the Osage Nation, that's tricky stuff, right? There's some Osage that aren't particularly stoked about Killers of the Flower Moon being made
Yeah.
by yeah, white guys, right? But they tried to do their best, to be fair. Like they came in and understood that they're in, that this is tricky, right? And they did their best to sort of empower everybody. But at the end of the day, you know, if you're not a native director, a native writer, then you're going to be playing scared. That's the way I think of it.
Mm.
Just like Scorsese and those guys, they're playing scared. They can't really get in there and fuck around and like and really take risks because they're already on thin ice, right?
Mm.
So for instance, I have a friend named Sterling Harjo who made a show called Reservation Dogs on FX, which is, it's all native. Everybody's native and pretty much in the show. And man, they are making fun of being Indian. They're making fun of all kinds of stuff because they can, because it's their world, right? And they have full agency and license to really dig in and just like be real. And sometimes that means making fun of yourself. Sometimes it means being very serious, you know, like sacred stuff. And like whatever, it's up to them to do it. And you can't, you know, and I'm not saying that if you're not native you can't write native characters or anything like that. I'm saying that you'll always be playing a little bit scared if you don't really
Mm.
have, you don't have that background. And look, I mean, I write lots of characters that aren't native and like you know, I'm not saying that people can't do that. I think that's, you know, a part of writing and putting
Mm.
yourself there. But But it's been really interesting to watch that evolve and to watch everybody kind of realize this, and now suddenly they're like, okay, well, if this is a native IP, like let's find native people to write that stuff. And so that's been great. I mean, that's really nice that people have come around to realizing that.
Mm. How did you feel about Killers of the Flower Moon yourself personally?
I haven't seen it quite yet, but
Oh,
it's just man, it just feels depressing, bro. Like it's a depressing story. Like I'm from
mm,
Tulsa, like of course that story is super bummer. We had the race riots in Tulsa, like the Black Wall Street stuff. Like I went to school there, Booker T. Washington's right there. That's my high school. And like it's just all that stuff is heavy, man. And like I
mm,
gotta be in the right mood before I want to like get into that.
yeah, yeah,
I'd
no, that's fair.
rather I'd rather have, yeah, native people in outer space blowing shit up. Like let's do that for a little
Yeah,
while, can we? Like
yeah,
Prey, man. I was into that. I've seen Prey, I saw that like the
yeah,
day it came out, the Predator remake where I think they had, yeah, the Predator was hunting indigenous people.
yeah.
But anyway,
But did the Predator? But that's what I was saying because I loved Prey because it wasn't the fact that the Predator was hunting indigenous people. It's like, oh no, it's role reversed because what does the Predator know that they know? And I always thought it was like a role reverse because obviously the
so
hunter
here's
was
what
being hunted.
yeah, I mean, well, that's always the third act in a Predator
Yeah,
movie. I mean, that's the
yeah,
satisfaction, right? But here's what I really liked about it is that there's this growing sort of understanding and realization among the, the current Western colonial civilization that we live in, uh, you and I, and what they're realizing is something about technology, right? Which is that Native people had amazing technologies. Their technologies were not the kind of technologies that destroy the environment and are, and use the way that we've used technology. But it's like, for instance, they showed up to, North America and they were like, wow, the colonists, and they were like, wow, these forests are beautiful. Like, why are these forests so amazingly manicured? These people are noble savages living at one with nature, and nature is bending out of the way for them and helping them out. No, they had honed technologies to curate their forests to help them live in equilibrium, to survive, to keep people alive. And they'd been doing it for thousands of years. That's why the forest looks so great. That's why whenever you try to sort of bring back some of this technology and apply it, it reduces wildfires. It like, it's, they're realizing this was really advanced stuff that was already there, and indigenous people all over the world had this stuff. And then, mostly they get wiped out by disease and stuff like that. And so then colonists show up and there's nobody there, and they just think that the woods are really pretty.
mm,
It's like, and then they get busy cutting them down. So um I love this notion. It's something I've been thinking a lot about in my fiction, this notion of sort of, what if the technology we're looking for doesn't look like what we think it does? What if the really advanced stuff, the stuff that really keeps human beings alive, because that's what tools are supposed to do, what if it doesn't look like all this bullshit that we've been creating? All these silly little chat GPTs and stuff like that. What if it's out there in the woods?
yeah.
And that's something I've been thinking about.
Oh, how to just going on to ChatGPT now. It's like how to solve the midlife crisis. Go to the woods.
Yeah, right. Hey,
Yeah.
there, that's where I'm at. But it started. This kind of started because I was reading a journal article that was really looking at SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and it was looking at the colonists, sort of the underlying sort of colonizer themes that are there. And like, look, NASA and everybody, I love NASA. Like, I mean, I don't think they're out to like get anybody or anything, but there are some sort of, when they're looking for civilization in outer space, right? There's an assumption of what civilization is and what it should look like. And so if you're making that assumption from a Western perspective, it's going to be really different than if you're making it from an indigenous perspective, right? Those are different types of civilizations. We're talking about equilibrium, sustainability, locality. So like, if you think of Fermi's paradox, right? This question, where is everybody in outer space? I love Fermi's paradox. The basic tenet, the underlying assumption of Fermi's paradox is that any species, alien species out in the galaxy, would immediately start colonizing every star and just spreading exponentially like locusts throughout the entire galaxy, like we would if we had
Mm,
that technology, like this particular civilization would. What an assumption, right?
mm,
Maybe you shouldn't look for pollution signatures, in their atmospheres. Maybe you shouldn't be looking for space junk. Maybe if there are aliens, they will have figured out a better way to run their civilization. Maybe they would be in equilibrium somewhere, living sustainably locally. Like, I mean, it's a crazy thing. Again, it just kind of ties in with thinking about advanced technology and what it should look like, and whether the kind of current path we're on really generates, a civilization that hangs around.
mm. Do you know, it's amazing you say that as well, because we we always talk, and then you're talking about the technologies, going back hundreds of years, thousands of years, and everything. And there was a documentary, and me going back to my grandfather again, we
Mhm.
were just watching it, and he was just sat there thinking, how come archaeologists seem to deny the technologies of back in the day when they seem to be more advanced than
Yeah,
what we've got? This is a 74-year-old old man,
yeah,
who grew up during the Cold War, and he was there going, they got these big, these were his words, we got these big bastard boulders, and the way they're structured and everything, right? And they said they couldn't have done that with little hammers and chillets and a piece of rope. They couldn't have done it. So
yeah,
why deny it?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have done it. It was must have been aliens. It couldn't have been native people, right?
Yeah.
I Yeah, no, this is also common in North America. So there's an entire sort of Mississippian culture there called the mound builders, and so they built all of these huge earthen mounds all up and down the river. And so, in fact, if you go back a couple hundred years or farther even, when people were first kind of when settlers were coming through and all the native population had been devastated by disease already, and they would look for a spot to build a new city, and every time they would look for a new spot to build a new city, there would already be mounds there because there had already been a city there, because people could already identify the best places to defend, the best places for trade, the best places for the climate and everything. And so like uh when people started finding these mounds, they they were saying, well, this kind of indicates that there was like a really big civilization here. And so of course the prevailing theory immediately became that there must have been white people here. And so everybody started going through all these mental, like all these crazy theories to find a way to put white people there building
Mm,
these earthworks. And so I mean, there's a lot of mental gymnastics that happen when people sort of just can't, it doesn't fit in their mindset for for this stuff to have existed, and for indigenous people to have built it. So I think though now maybe we're finally coming around, right, to
mm.
understanding people are people, and like people are smart, and if you leave people in a place long enough, they'll figure stuff out.
Yeah. Well, it's like, as the saying goes, nature will take its course, and life will find a way.
Yeah,
For
yeah. um so yeah, I mean,
yeah.
and I love thinking about the mound builders
Oh,
there.
oh, yeah.
It's so
But we can,
fascinating.
yeah, and we could talk about it loads and loads, because it's so interesting. Because there's so many gaps in time where we could go, how can we fill that? What is within the gaps
Yeah,
in
I
times?
mean,
It's
I do
mad to
that.
think.
I do that with my fiction a lot, like
Yeah.
I have a novel called The Clockwork Dynasty that's about a race of humanoid robots that have been around since antiquity, and they don't understand how they were built, and they're running out of batteries, essentially. So they're cannibalizing each other to extend their own lifespans because they don't know how to fix themselves. And you realize over the course of the novel that they've been pushing humanity toward a more technological future so that they can hopefully get us to a point where we figure out how to repair them.
Mm,
Um, and it's like it's a really fun novel because I jump all through time. I jump all the way back to like just I mean, if you go back 5, 10,000 years, even just not that long, you get a whole different set of megafauna and like all kinds of different animals and things that aren't extinct yet due to, the Anthropocene time period having begun. And it's just such an interesting thing to think that the people then were the same as we are now, right? They're physiologically just the same. And so what were they doing for the last 100,000 years
Mm.
or 200,000 years?
And that's what makes people think, it's like, well, come on, you got to think like that.
Yeah,
And it's really interesting to think as well. Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You can even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Now, going on to how you started as a writer,
Mhm.
because obviously you got a PhD in robotics, but
Yeah.
what was it that made you want to become a writer? Was it the fact that you maybe picked up a book and you thought, I want to be like this writer? Or you thought, you know what, I want to write a lot of stories that I want to write? What was it?
It was short stories. Um, there's this thing about short stories that are really well done, where yes, a short story can just be a glimpse into a really interesting world, but that's not my jam. Like I like that, but that's what really gets me going. I love a short story that is set up like a mousetrap, and you get to the end and it snaps shut. The 9 billion names of God, right? Like you get to the last sentence of that, and you go, "Oh shit!" Like it's it's amazing, and often that mousetrap will snap shut at the end of a short story, and it will fill you with wonder, or it'll blow your mind, but then often it'll make you feel an emotion, right? And I love getting into my emotions with books that I read, right? If a book is sad, I'm crying. If it's funny, I'm laughing. Like I get into it. I mean, that's what it exists to do, is to invoke those emotions, right? And so at the time as a kid, I was really into reading science fiction. I was really into programming, video games, Pascal. That's just date me. I was programming Pascal, C++, and I started to think of the short stories as a kind of code that the human brain compiles into sort of like a waking dream, right? And I thought, man, that is neat. Like I want to write that code and have people read it and compile it in their brains and experience these things and take them places and make them feel things. And so that's what I did. I got good at it. Eventually, it took me a really long time. I mean, essentially, I wanted to be writing science fiction since the day I was like about 16. And I started then. And it took me until I was 26 before I ever sold any science fiction. And by then I had gotten a degree in robotics and done all this other stuff, because if I couldn't do the science fiction, I'd just do the science, I mean, it's the
Mm.
closest thing to it. So
How to survive a robot uprising.
yeah.
Now, if there was a Robopocalypse like the one you've written, um, I must use that as this is the guide. This will be your
Yeah.
savior masses. Where did it come from? Was it just something that you wanted to write for fun, or was it something that you wanted to make people think? What was it? What
It
was
was
the
for
yeah,
fun. Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it was for fun. Like, because I was around roboticists and we were all in our 20s and having an awesome time. And there were people from all over the world, and there were just really smart people doing really amazing things, I mean, that's the whole goal of a graduate degree like that, is you have to go out and do something nobody did before, which for me just meant getting more and more specific until I found something nobody else had ever, because God, there's so many smart people. They're very, very, very smart out there, and thank goodness too. But so yeah, I realized that none of them were trying to destroy humanity. Yet we were all building robots, and so there was this big disconnect between pop culture and the real study of robotics. And so I decided just to take the pop culture completely seriously, and
Mm.
interviewed all these roboticists about, all right, you build legs. How do you trip a robot? Okay, you do vision systems. Like, what would you do to fool a robot and to get away from it? And yeah, and then just put it all together into How to Survive a Robot Uprising. The good thing about that was it was just a small book. It was a joke book. It was highly designed, very pretty. Richard Hornsby did all the art, and it was amazing. But it got optioned to be a movie. That never came through. But I got introduced to screenwriting through that book as well, which is pretty cool. To have that experience right at the very beginning of my
Mm.
career, so that I could kind of have both careers happening at the same time. So writing television and film, and then also writing novels.
Are there any films? So, say there's a film that you like and a film that you dislike involving robots. What film would you say is spot on when it comes to robotics? And what is
Mhm.
the film that you dislike that is not
You know,
portraying robots in a different way,
yeah.
because but in a way that what
I'll
am I
tell you
watching?
what, a movie I really liked recently, which I did not expect this, was Megan, right? The horror movie. Gerard
Mm,
Johnstone directed it. Uh, and I thought, this is gonna make a mockery of robotics. Like, right? This is a scary doll movie, like
mm.
Annabelle, except they're using a robot. But I love horror movies, and so I watched it and I was like, oh my God, they like totally there's nothing in there that really offended my sensibilities about robots. And I was like, wow, that was, I mean, fun. Way to go. And then the movies that I don't like are when they really humanize robots too much, or they
Mm.
make assumptions that a robot would want to be human, or give a much of a damn about humans at all. And so stuff like Bicentennial Man, I'm just like, woof. And then, that iRobot stuff that just disrespects the source material. So like the Will Smith movie iRobot, which was literally a different movie, and they just had the IP to Asimov's iRobot stories, and so they just called it iRobot. Come on, that's
Mm.
weak. So that kind of stuff. I don't really dig very much, but yeah, just speaking of lately, I really had a good time watching Megan.
What about artificial intelligence, the one that Spielberg made? How did you feel
Mhm.
about that one? Because didn't wasn't it supposed to be? I haven't seen it in a long time, by the way.
Yeah,
Wasn't it something to do with the fact that he wanted to be a real boy, proper Pinocchio style? And
yeah,
well, how did you feel
yeah.
about
Well, I actually I really like that movie.
that?
And that movie was really personal for Steven Spielberg, because it was
Yeah,
his friend had started it, right? And
yeah,
so
Kubrick, wasn't it? Stanley
Kubrick,
Kubrick.
yeah. So that that whole movie was really, really personal for Spielberg. And which is kind of a funny thing to say, since millions and millions of people watch his movies. But I really enjoyed it, and the reason is because, again, my feels, man, it got me. Like, that kid was designed to elicit an emotional response. That to me made sense. He was designed from the ground up. That's what his raison d'etre was,
Mm,
is the reason he was there. And so he did that for both of his parents and also for the audience, right? And
mm.
then to see the kid go on that journey, um, yeah, I was into it. I also really liked the what was the guy's name? Gigolo Joe or whatever. That character, because I mean, I thought something really profound occurred there that really got me thinking with so that was played by who's the guy?
Jude Law.
Jude Law. Yeah, so Jude Law plays this prostitute robot, and he's very flashy and good looking, and he looks this woman in the eye and says, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. And he totally means it, right? Like, he's a machine that's designed to say that, and he totally means it. And then it's also totally worthless, right? Because he's not a person. And
Mm,
even though he looks like a person, he does a stint, assuming he does everything people can do, and yet he has this utter truth to him, and it's also utterly worthless. And I think a lot about that in terms of, you think about what's the last thing that a human will be able to do that a machine can't. You know,
mm.
it ain't painting, it isn't holding a conversation, it isn't, we always just circle in tighter every time they get a new capability. I think part of maybe one of the last things that we'll have is the actual act of being human, of knowing what it means to be human. And therefore, when you create something from a human perspective, like, that gives it meaning. Like, if you're writing a biography or something, and you really went there and you really did that and you felt that and you lost that and you gained that, reading it, you want to know a human really experienced it, and there's value to that. And a machine can't do that yet, but it probably will sooner or later. um,
Speaking of speaking of Spielberg again, obviously Robopocalypse, another book that you've written.
yeah.
Spielberg had his sights on getting the rights to it. Now, before we mention about the possibility of it being made into a film one day, how did that come about? How did Robopocalypse come to fruition?
Oh, no, I mean, it was crazy. It was the craziest couple days, yeah, probably of my life. Like, I had written a fiction for the first time. I had written 100 pages of Robopocalypse. We were trying to sell it in New York to publishers, and we were getting some interest, and I was really very excited about that. And then, yeah, like on a Friday at like 10 o'clock, Amblin reached out to my entertainment lawyer, and they made a deal to buy the rights. And then then I met Steven Spielberg like 3 days later, ate cookies with him, like, and Drew Goddard, who wrote the first draft of the script. So it was really incredible. And of course, I still had to finish writing the book. So I was picking Steven's brain as much as I could during those meetings. Just, okay, so what do you think should happen? And so, yeah, then I finished writing that, and Drew finished writing the script. But it was unfortunate that the script is being written at the same time as the novel, because Drew would just call and be like, "Tell me stuff. I need to know what happens in the book because I'm just writing stuff." And also, there were a lot of native characters
Mm.
in the book, and so there ends up being, it would have been nice to have a native writer on the script at some point. Um, so yeah, so what happened was that happened. It was amazing. The book did really well. It was great. And ultimately the movie got delayed, I guess, like a couple of weeks before it was meant to be shooting, which was, yeah, quite a it was pretty big blow, right? I mean, I was very excited to see that happen, obviously, but that was 10 years ago, right? Maybe
Mm.
longer. So in that time, Robopocalypse they've continued to have screenwriters work on it. I've even, at one point, I worked on it for Steven and for Michael Bay, and did a draft. I mean, as my screenwriting career has continued to develop over the years, I finally got to the point where I was able to take a whack at it. And it is still on their plate. They're still excited about it. I still have phone calls with Amblin. It's incredible, but yeah, it's been gestating for so long. And the joke is that I tell them, you know, we got to do this before it's a historical documentary, and we got to do it while it's still science fiction, man, before it just becomes like, you know, like Saving Private Ryan or something. Um, so anyway, that's the story on Robopocalypse. I mean, it's still out there. And, you know, I have, of course, moved on. I've written, geez, 4 more novels and sold a lot of other stuff that I'm excited about. But it's always I think of it alternately. It's kind of like, it's like my white whale. It's out there. Someday I'm gonna harpoon it, and I'll be in a theater and I'm gonna watch Robopocalypse. It's
Mm.
gonna be, or maybe I'll just see it on Netflix. I don't know.
Oh god. Hopefully not on Netflix. You can see it on a big screen,
I would
you
love
know,
that. Yes.
big screen
It,
moment.
I think Steven Spielberg also likes to watch things on the big screen, so
Yeah.
fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But
What was it like to sit with Spielberg and just talk to him? Because if I was, I mean, I'm a playwright myself, and if I wrote to him and then Spielberg was like, I'm really interested, and if I sat down with him, I'd just be there going,
yeah.
you made Hook. I don't care about ET. And I was like, you made
I just
Hook.
watched Hook again. That was,
Oh
yeah, it's so,
God.
so fun. It's intimidating, right? I mean, I don't know. So like I've been working in Hollywood for a long time, and I've been living in Portland. And so like I have got just sort of this collection of experiences that are pretty cool, right? I mean, it's undeniably very interesting moment, intimidating, but also I just I don't take any of it too seriously, you know. It's really fun. It's really interesting. It's really interesting to see how people behave.
Mm,
And I will say, like most people that I've interacted with, especially Steven Spielberg, are just amazing. I mean, you would think who could tell this person anything, right? But I think the really great ones, they pull in the smartest people they can find, and they listen to other people.
mm.
And you know, I've had experiences with other directors that weren't like that. And I'm just like, are you serious right now, bro? Like, do you hear what you're saying? And like, I life's too short for me. Like, I don't even want to work with somebody like that. It's just like in LA, like it's really just about finding people you get along with and then trying to make it happen and then trying to make it happen again and again. And so, you know, like I dig Sterling Harjo, right? I dig Steven Spielberg. There's a lot of people I really like working with. And you know, and it really doesn't matter how famous they are, really.
Mm.
Like there's people that have done stuff that nobody knows about that I'm so freaking excited about. And I'm just as giddy. Like and I have these moments, and I'm very lucky because you know what, I have representation there and they can connect me to people. And so I got really excited about this little movie on it's more like a music video, but it's on Shudder, and it's called Blood Machines. And,
Mm.
oh, I'm crazy for it. I'm crazy for it. If I could ever make anything with those directors that did that, I mean, I would be just as excited as, you know, whoever you can end up with in Hollywood. Like, so really, you know, it's all just it's a
Yeah.
lark. So
It's mad to think as well that I look at filmmaking now as you got your Spielbergs, you got your Scorseses, you got your Michael Bays, and but there's like YouTubers now. They're breaking into directing and producing films,
mhm.
and it's like a lot of people are worried that because YouTubers are breaking into the to making films and everything, they're saying, oh, they're getting the easy way. Um, I I was like, nah, there's like I call them I can't remember their actual last names, but it's the Raka Raka boys who made that film. Oh, what's that film? What is the film? It's A24 made it. It was a horror film. What is it called? That's gonna bug me now. But they made that and it became such a hit. And now Markiplier, he's gone on to make a film, and
Mhm.
apparently that's going on to success. And you think to yourself, well, if they're going to take it seriously, like those guys are going to do it, then don't worry. You know, I'd rather those YouTubers, you know, stand shoulder to shoulder with the likes of Spielberg and that if they're going to take it seriously.
Yeah,
So,
no, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong. People should hit it from any angle they can get into it. Like,
mm,
there is no real sort of, you know, trajectory on getting into this thing. Everybody's reinventing it constantly, and it's
oh
really
yeah,
just about did you make something that was, entertaining, right? So I'm excited to see it from wherever it comes from. Like, for instance, I'm working with Sean Heater on a project, and she did Coda, and you see like who's going to predict, right, that she's going to make a movie with the stars who are deaf, and in Hollywood they would say, I'm not going to make this movie because we don't have any deaf movie stars, right? Well, then she goes and makes deaf movie stars. Marley Matlin is already famous, but
Mm,
like, Troy Kotzer, and like, the guy wins an Oscar, and it's like,
mm,
okay, that's how you do it. You do it by doing it. You
mm.
can't sit around and say, oh, we don't have any native, we don't have any A-list native actors or something. Well, no, you make it, and then and that's how you make the great writers, directors, actors. Like, they come through the process. And so it's one thing I love about Reservation Dogs is there's so many new native actors and writers and that are now on the scene and are like, shown what they can do. And it's like they're gonna go out and they're gonna make a lot of amazing stuff, and that's gonna be awesome. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think that's how you do it, is by doing it. If you sit around and wait on Hollywood to give you permission all the time, then you will be following some pretty strict rules, and you will get some pretty homogenous outcomes.
Yeah. There's something about the connection with Spielberg and you because, of course, you tried working together on Robopocalypse, and also there's another connection there where he made Jurassic Park, and it was also written by
Mhm.
Michael Crichton, and of course, you did the sequel to his
Yeah.
book, the Andromeda Strain book. So
Mhm.
how did you get that? And I've never really I've heard of book sequels, but it was very rare for me that I've seen. I've like the only novel sequel that I've read was Doctor Sleep,
Mhm.
with Stephen King. So I was really
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you followed Michael Crichton. That must have been a bit of a not a stressful moment, but a bit of a like a some shoes to fill in kind of
You mean like
moment.
finishing a novel while
Yeah,
Spielberg's waiting on the
yeah,
pages?
yeah,
I mean, look, like that stuff's intimidating. And those are big shoes. Those are big names. Those are people who have become brands, they're internationally recognized. But here's the thing. At the end of the day, you're writing a book. I'm not like running across a field with a football or something, right? Like nobody's watching me. I'm not on stage. It's like doing your homework versus taking a test, right? Like I like homework. I'll get my homework just right. It'll take as much time as I need to do it. I'll stay up all night if I have to, but it's just me and the homework, you know? And so that's the way I kind of think of writing, is offline. I'm not there performing in front of anybody. I can just go home and I can think deeply about it, and I can just work on it. And so the way that the Andromeda evolution came about was, well, I have a friend named Ernie Klein who wrote a book called Ready Player One
Mm.
and Armada and Ready Player Two. And Ernie got his movie made by Spielberg. And so Ernie called me and was like, dude, I have bad news or good news, however you want to look at it. He's like, I think Steven's going to do my movie now. And I was like hoping that Robo would get made. So anyway, Ernie had been talking to Crichton's Son, which is the company that runs all of Crichton's stuff. So Crichton passed away in 2008, and they were looking for someone to continue sort of in his footsteps with his IP and sort of play in the same sandbox that he created. And there are certain similarities. So Crichton studied to become a medical doctor and never practiced. So he started writing while he was in med school, and then that was successful. And then he took a lot of that technical expertise and he put it into his novels, and in particular, the first novel that had his name on it, Andromeda Strain, which is like one of my top favorites. And so that one has a lot of medical knowledge in it because he was like in his 20s and he just got a medical degree and he never became a doctor. And so I did the same thing. I got this whole degree in robotics and had this technical knowledge. I never once got a real job, right? I've been writing science fiction since the day I graduated. And so since the day I defended. So there were kind of some similarities there. So I went and I met Sherry Crichton, who was married to Michael Crichton. And I I had just a we just got along, and I truly really loved the material. I loved all of Crichton's stuff, obviously, like many people do. And so it was really, and I had kind of that technical expertise to be able to write a techno thriller in the way that he did. And so yeah, I pitched an idea. I said, this is my favorite book. I want to write a sequel. I want to know what happens 50 years later, right? And so we did that. And I mean, it was a successful book. I'm proud of that book. It was really fun. Like I had to walk this tightrope. That was a really fascinating thing to do, right? Because you know that Crichton has all these fans and everybody has an internal idea of how he writes and what to expect. But it's not exactly what he wrote in Andromeda Strain, because everybody's read lots of Crichton novels, So in my head, like I got to kind of channel a little bit of Congo, like a little bit of Sphere, a little, obviously lots and lots of Andromeda Strain, like all of it went into the Andromeda evolution. And yeah, I kind of had a great time writing that. It was a little scary, but I mean, everything went great. I was kind of amazed that nothing went seriously wrong. But yeah, it was a good experience. And there's another one coming. I'm not writing it, but it looks like James Patterson is teaming up.
Yeah.
So that's going to be, I mean, that's going to be a big one. I'm really curious what that'll be like.
Mm. What's the future for you then, Daniel? What is the future? Is it screenwriting? Are you currently writing a screenplay at the moment, or are you writing a new
Yeah.
novel?
So I spent what happened was during COVID, I pivoted over to doing screenplays and film, right? So I've got lots of projects that I'm working on. I have, Robopocalypse is seriously potentially gonna go into production at some point soon. Like it's an actual, I mean, I'm always saying that. I've been saying that for a decade. But also The Blue Afternoon That Lasted Forever is a series. That's the one with Sean. That's a serious potential film that I wrote that could come out. And I've got several other projects that are in the works. A lot of them are based on my short stories. So if you want to know what films I'm writing, go look and see what my latest short story is, because usually I establish intellectual property by writing either a short story or a novel or whatever. And right now what I'm doing though is we had a strike, I couldn't
Mm.
write for 6 months pretty much. So what do I do, right? I put on my other hat and I started writing a novel. So I'm in the middle of negotiating the sale of that novel right now. And so I'm gonna have a new novel, which that's super exciting, because it's just the difference between writing a screenplay and writing a novel is just night and day. And it's
Mm.
really nice to be able to do both, just for your sanity. So the next thing will probably be a novel. I think it's going to be called Heliopause, and it's I don't know how much to talk about it yet. I should just probably keep my trap shut about it. But and then some potential films, fingers crossed. I'm hoping to finally get something made. and yeah, I mean, so I'm having a great time, and I'm living in nice green, beautiful Portland, Oregon. And I don't have to go to New York, and I don't have to go to LA and live there. And so, I'm doing good. I'm having fun.
You're living the dream, as I
Living
say.
the dream right now.
So I always ask this, the last question on the podcast. I always ask this question to, I've said this to Billy West as well. I've
Mhm.
said it to all of them. How do you look back on your career, but for you, so far?
Uh, yeah, it's kind of scary, man. You think, am I like, have I peaked, right? Or like, or what's going on? And I have to say, like, I uh I used to care a lot more early on about what other people thought. And now I just kind of am in my groove, and I process a lot of what's going on in my life through my writing. And it seems to be working out. So, looking back on it, I'm I feel incredibly lucky. Just like just a lot of things just have been lucky in terms of how they lined up. I'm lucky that people want to read about Native Americans fighting robots. It isn't like I went to a focus group and they said, "Hey, this is what people want." I'm lucky that people care, that people are interested, and that I get to do this. And so, part of the reason why I like this career of writing is I'm just planning on doing this till I keel over, right? So
Mm.
so I'm still going strong, and like I hope to be doing this for another 30 years. So yeah,
Hmm.
I'm you learn to deal with also, things don't always go your way, right? Sometimes you think a big movie's about to come out and it doesn't happen. And so, I mean, all of that ultimately, the setbacks, I think, have been pretty healthy in terms of just I'm not a total dickhead, kind of, but not total. And I really could be. I feel like, if you don't have those setbacks sometimes. So yeah, I'm really happy with where I'm at, and I'm having fun still.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk, or even phone them at 07789 794248.